Were you told you were shy? Do you identify as shy? Do you hate that word now? Do you just wish you could get over it and get on with your life? Welcome to Shining Beyond Shy, empowering you to create a greater life than you ever thought was possible. With your Shining Beyond Shy host, Fiona Cutts. So welcome everybody to this episode of Shining Beyond Shy, and I'm really happy to have Daniel Alfon here. And so Daniel is a LinkedIn author, expert and trainer. And I think you've just recently published your book, Build a LinkedIn Profile for Business Success. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad to be part of the Shining Beyond Shy, and the book is still fresh in my mind. Yes.
I love it. Great. And so you told me that you considered yourself an introvert, and that you've used, and through your journey with LinkedIn, you've used it to go from well, you found ways of being on the platform that allows you to take advantage of the platform to get yourself out there in ways that may sometimes be difficult for you as a more introverted person. And I'm paraphrasing what you told me. So can I ask you, would you like to speak to that? Tell me whether I've got it right or what you know about that.
With pleasure. You got it absolutely right. You even phrased it much better than what I originally said. So sometimes it takes someone else to put a pattern in the right words so we can relate to that. Yes, I think I'm still an introvert, and one of the struggles I had initially in my career was networking, if you like, general networking, online, offline networking, real life networking, back before COVID, when we, either went to the Chamber of Commerce or had conferences or meetups. And being an introvert, I wasn't looking forward to these events, and it was a bit stressful for me. And when I started using LinkedIn, I simply used LinkedIn before the event to try and connect with people who would be there. I would look them up. I would see who the speakers are. I would learn some information about them. And that enabled me basically to walk and speak with someone and be prepared, if you like. And eventually, I let go of even those preparations, and I think I understand now that being authentic is probably better than being perfect.
That's really interesting. That's something that I talk about quite a bit in terms of shy people. So our audience is mainly shy people, and then anybody else who likes us. And and it's something that we talk about a lot, that often shy people get so scared about being out there in an event, as you say, that they think they have to be perfect. And actually, people are interested in us. Us showing up as us is what's interesting to people. So I love the way that you said that just now. Would you like to say a little bit more about it?
Pleasure. I think what the work you're doing with empowering people is important, and we need. When I grew up, the idols or the message that I got was that in order to be successful, you needed to convey a strong sense of confidence and always knowing what the next step should be, and be very decisive about everything you do, and never hesitate in public, or never show that you have second thoughts or things like that. And that was very frustrating, because I couldn't see myself as someone who's always right, and I'm not always right. But at one point, I just realized that there's a quote saying, "Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And at one point, I simply realized that most people don't care about me that much. So I'd rather be myself, and no one could do that better than me. And if that works for people, that's fine. If that doesn't work, I'm really sorry, but I don't have a second personality to offer as much as I'd like. And when I help people leveraging the LinkedIn platform, one of their fears is that they would need now to do all sorts of things that are natural for them, Fiona. And the truth is, they don't have to.
Okay. Yes, I'd love to know more, because it's interesting, isn't it? Because we have sort of live events, as you said, and then we have this whole social media world and LinkedIn world, which of course was there before COVID. I mean, was really well there before COVID, but I guess it's like exponentialized in the last 2 years. And it's possible, and a lot of us are doing it, to have most of our business online. And yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that the on the one hand, the promise can be that, you know, you can hide a bit behind your profile, but actually what you're saying is that people don't want to do the phony stuff, which they think they may have to do on social media.
That's right. And it would be so difficult and so time consuming to try to be someone else. You would never get results from that. So whenever I work with someone and they're hesitant about, let's say, using humor on what they do on LinkedIn or anything like that, perhaps I could share with you 3 simple questions I ask them, and anyone can relate to those questions and obviously answer then the questions the way they'd like. So the first question is, do they feel it's right for them? Do they feel performing that action is natural for them, or are they performing it because they think they need to do it on that particular platform? I'm referring to LinkedIn, but we can refer to social media and anything in general. And if their answer is yes, that's me, I want to convey that message, I want to use that term, I want to perform that action, then we can move to the second question, and that, do people who know you really well, when they see that action, are they going to be taken aback, or will they nod and say, yes, Fiona, that's the way Fiona would speak in real life. That's the way that resonates with me, and that's aligned with her as a person. And the last and third question would be, is your ideal reader on LinkedIn, when they see that sort of action, the humor you've used or the photo used or whatever it is you shared, are they going to be likely to say, I would like to learn more about you? So first about ourselves, then about our network, and lastly about our clients or a future employer or the person we'd like to reach out to. And what I found is that when all 3 answers are positive, you can't go wrong.
That's really interesting, and I love that, and it's something that I talk about in the work that I do, helping people with their confidence. I mean, I work with shy people, and I work with everybody around talking on video, and it's really interesting, because I guess there's another thing with LinkedIn, which I have to say that I'm often aware of on LinkedIn, because I'm on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and then I'm trying to be on Instagram. I seem to not be able to manage that as well as the others. And I always seem to have it in the back of my mind, oh, LinkedIn is professional. And, you know, and sometimes I'll have things, you're laughing, I love your laugh. So sometimes it's like stuff that I put on Facebook, oh, no, it's inappropriate for LinkedIn. Even so, it's the stuff where I'm really being me, and, you know, people respond to that and they see it's me. So what would you say to that, this idea of LinkedIn as a more professional platform?
Yes, it is a professional platform, but I think it's what you'd like to do with the platform that is more important than the platform itself, because LinkedIn is here to serve Fiona and our listeners and myself, and not the other way around. So if that gives you if that makes you feel better, then do whatever you'd like and forget about everything else, because it would be easier for you when you're truthful to yourself. You don't have to remember anything. There's no version of, you know, I told Fiona XYZ and now I need to be alone. No, we said that because that was the right thing to do for us. Yes, there are general conventions on LinkedIn, and it's usually considered to be a conservative platform, a professional platform. And if we revert to the question of shy people, LinkedIn is probably the platform where they don't need to share a lot. Okay, you mentioned Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. There, if some people don't see you for 24 hours, they're likely to think something might have happened to you. And on LinkedIn, you can disappear for months and no one will be worried about you. So we can leverage the platform in a perfect way when we have a strong LinkedIn presence on the one hand, and when we connect smartly, and you can build a reputation without sharing much or without really sharing anything unless you want to.
Yeah. And when you say sharing anything, you mean sharing anything about your personal life? Or
even in general terms, what people usually share on LinkedIn is about their profession, about their book they read, conferences they go to, rewards, the honors they get in about their lives. But the frequency of sharing does not have to be high on LinkedIn. That's what I initially meant. And of course, if some listeners are happy sharing quotes or sharing images or sharing whatever it is they feel like, then they can do it. But exposure is overrated on LinkedIn. So you don't have to say, I must post twice a week on LinkedIn, otherwise people will forget about me. That's not the case. You can forget about sharing for 6 months and everything will be fine.
Okay, that's good to know. And I've noticed that because I've been reaching out to people a bit new connections and stuff. And it's like, I just noticed it's like on LinkedIn, it's fine to reply after 2 weeks or something. Whereas with Facebook, it's like normally people would reply within 24 hours and often instantly. So it's a very, very different thing. And I guess that gives our introverts or our shy people a chance to kind of do something and then kind of regroup, see how it goes, and then come back.
You're absolutely right. Yes, it enables us to edit it, to reread it, to think about it. And even in many cases, you could simply move the conversation, Fiona, outside of LinkedIn. So maybe you just connected with someone and you exchange 1 or 2 LinkedIn messages, and then the third could move simply to your email. And then you'd have the advantage of being able to reread it, and there would be no rush. Usually most things should not be time sensitive. And if that makes us feel better about the message we want to convey, then really 90% of what we do on LinkedIn is not time sensitive. So we don't have to feel the pressure of getting something out or replying this instant. There's no need to rush. We simply see what was the latest action that you performed publicly. It could have happened 3 months ago, and that's fine. It could have happened 10 minutes ago. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So you also talked about how when you started your journey with LinkedIn, or you told me that you were invited on a podcast at a certain point, and you were like, oh, well, I'm a bit, I'd like to have the podcast scripted, and you did that. And now you're like in this space of, well, I see you here now, and you're like, we haven't scripted this, by the way, people. Or you're doing live videos on LinkedIn. And these are skills that a lot of the people who watch this or who listen to this podcast or watch it on YouTube, skills that people find difficult, you know, to be able to talk publicly without it being scripted, or to be able to just go live. Do you have, I mean, is there anything you can share about how that journey occurred for you? How it happened that you're now able to sit here unscripted?
It's a profound question. I think my advice would be to simply start. Because when I wanted the first podcast recording to be scripted, I thought of it as a lecturer, and my lectures are usually planned. But even in my lectures, there always things are happening. Someone is knocking on the door, and then we have a laugh about something else. But I do have a general plan beforehand. And what happened was that if you told me 2 years ago I would go into YouTube Live or LinkedIn Live, I would say never. Never, I would never do, because when we think about Murphy's Law, anything could happen, from our Wi-Fi to the dog barking to being at a loss for words. That's probably the strongest fear that we may have. But there are baby steps we could take. For example, being on a podcast that is not live enables, if something happened now and I choked and I stuttered, I could ask you afterwards perhaps to skip that part or edit it, and if that would make us feel more comfortable having that discussion, then it's fine. And the best way to look at it is we're simply having a conversation, you and me. I know in the back of my mind, maybe some people are likely to listen to it or to watch it afterwards, but right now I can't think about them. I need to think about you, because you're the person I'm speaking with. And as long as we do that, then it's even better for the listeners and for the audience. We don't need to think about them. It's one definition I read was like, think about it as coffee with many people, but you're only having the coffee with one person, and everyone else is just sitting in other tables next to you and may overhear what you're saying. But focus on the host, the person you're speaking with. That's the best way for other people to be interested.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I love that. It's funny because it's been the case for me for, I don't know how long now, between 5 and 10 years, that I'm putting so much out there on social media, and now the podcast, that I'll be writing to somebody and I'll be like, oh, by the way, I've just decided, say, to move to Croatia or whatever. They, yeah, we know all about this, we know all about that. And I, oh, and it's almost like I forget that my life is, well, quite public within my domain of people. It's actually quite a public life, because I nowadays quite enjoy sharing crazy stories on Facebook. Since I've been in, well, in the last couple of years, as I've been traveling around in lockdown, I've had some crazy things happen. And I don't really mind sharing some of those crazy things. Same on this podcast. And so, but it still surprises me that this kind of conversation that we're having, where we're talking to each other, or me going live on Facebook, it's like, oh wow, really, people are seeing this and they know stuff about me. Oh, it's like, it still kind of surprises me, even though when I started to do this maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, I was like, well, what if I could connect with people far bigger than a personal conversation? It's like it was actually something I was asking for. And then it started to happen. And it still takes me by surprise somehow.
And when you mention crazy things, what is the craziest thing you could share with us that happened?
You're asking me questions now. Now that is unscripted. Excuse me, I'm the host. I'm just joking. What's the craziest thing? I have quite a few crazy adventures. What can I share? Do you know what? I'm going to tell you about something very, very recent. So this is crazy in itself, actually. I was going for residency in Montenegro and paid all the money, did all the stuff, and then left and got all the papers in order and left Montenegro to go. I facilitate classes in different places. So And I literally didn't come back to Montenegro till last week, by which time I decided I no longer wanted to be resident there. And I had to go to the police office and basically pay some money in order to be able to leave. And literally I went into this police office and it was like teeming with people. It's like Montenegro has a lot of Russians and a lot of Ukrainians coming. And it was like literally people just pushing and shoving and trying to get behind this door of bureaucracy. And literally in 3 hours standing there, nobody was let in. Nobody was let in at all. And so and I only had one day. I spoke to the lady next to me and she was like, oh, I've been coming since 7 o'clock in the morning every day for 3 days now, and I still haven't been able to get in. I was like, no, that's not going to happen to me. So I rang my Turkish consultant, and basically we paid to get to the front of the line. And I'm like, oh my God, well, maybe I'm naive. I didn't think this stuff existed nowadays. It's like, for me, that's like going back to the 1980s and stuff. But it made me aware that I'm not willing to live like that. And it's funny, the lady from Belarus, when I told her I was from the UK, she's like, what are you doing in this queue? And it was almost like, you're from that country where you don't have to be treated like this. And I'm like, no, I don't think anybody on the planet should be treated like this. So that was my recent crazy story.
Yeah. These are crazy times, and perhaps one thought I had when you mentioned this is that our references in some cases are, where we grew up, and if you grew up in the UK, or some people grew up in Belarus or elsewhere, then their whole reference system is different. And for some people on this planet, what you've experienced is normal, and they wouldn't think twice about it. And that also should give us the opportunity to stop and really appreciate what we have, because many people on this planet don't have a roof or enough food to eat, not to mention, fulfillment and doing all sorts of things. So sometimes it's we need to go through these experiences to stop and say, hey, we're in a good place. Let's be thankful for that.
It was really interesting that you say that, because I realized that here am I complaining about being in this crazy queue and not getting to the front of the queue when other people are being killed on the streets of Ukraine. And it's like all kinds of stuff going on in the world. And it made me aware, as you say, yeah, I'm really grateful, but it also made me aware I don't want to be in a world that treats people like this, And so it was a bit of you asked me for a crazy story. Some of my crazy stories are a bit lighter and more fun than that. But this is the latest crazy story. But yeah, it did put me in that place of being grateful for what I have, and also just that place of, you know what, this isn't acceptable. I don't think it is acceptable to sort of herd people like that and, make them come back day after day. That's my point of view.
We can learn from experiences that are light, but we can also learn from experiences that are, tragic. Yes,
yes, yes. Wow, so we're on a different different theme now. So let's come back to LinkedIn and introverts and shyness and you. So what else would you like to share with our listeners? Anything else that you'd like us to know about LinkedIn or social media generally when we're shy or introverted?
With pleasure. I would like to suggest 2 options for LinkedIn users that are that introverts or shy people could relate to. And that focuses on what I call the connection strategy we may have on LinkedIn. Very roughly, you could have a quality network of people you know well, and you can have a large quantity of people who you don't necessarily know well, and that would give you greater exposure. So shy people could pick either of those options and be successful. The worst place to be is trying to aim for both.
Okay. Yeah.
Because unfortunately, they're mutually exclusive. If you want to have trust, that means you cannot connect with people you don't know. And if you want to have exposure, that means you need to have a large network. Either in the long term, Fiona, either will work fine. And if I could suggest something, is because the price of changing is so, it could take us years to move from quality to quantity, or from quantity to quality. Think about it and ask yourself, in 5 years' time, would I rather be most connected, or would I rather be best connected? And if you decide that you want to be one of them, then it doesn't matter what happened with other people. If you decide that you'd rather have a quality network, you don't have to accept every incoming invitation. And if you want to use LinkedIn as a way to become a thought leader and share many things and connect with people, even though you're shy to use the LinkedIn platform to do it, it's fine. The only place that is not very successful is to think that when we had 300 connections, it wasn't enough, and we need to have 3,000, and now we would be successful. And unfortunately, 3,000 is not meaningful on LinkedIn in terms of exposure. You need to get to 30,000 or 50,000. If you're hesitant, then start with quality and start with people you know well. Nothing will happen if you can't manage being in touch with 200 people. I can't see how in the world you would be able to be in touch with 2,000 or 20,000.
Wow. And it's funny because well, it's not the case. I was going to say, I mean, I'm relatively new to LinkedIn, and that I've been on, I don't know, Facebook for 10 years and hated it first, now love it. And I think I've been on LinkedIn sort of seriously, if you like, really using it for 2 or 3 years. And it really makes sense that you say that about the 20 or 30,000 number, but I didn't know that. And so that's really interesting.
Exposure on LinkedIn is overrated simply because many LinkedIn users visit the platform once in a while. They don't live on LinkedIn 24/7. When they get an invitation, they would check that person out. Or when they want to prepare for an important meeting, they would go for LinkedIn, but it's not something that they use on a daily basis. And that means they're not likely to see what it is that you shared. So pick exposure or trust. I pick trust. And it took me some time to make my decision, but I'm happy with the decision. As long as you make a decision and you stick to it, you're good.
Yeah. And you said because people aren't on there very much, when you are sharing, people aren't likely to see it. So where does the connection come from then?
The connections themselves could happen in real life, and LinkedIn would only reflect them. So if you, in the next couple of weeks in Croatia, there are 2 or 5 or 20 people you're likely to work with or help or teach, then maybe some of them you'd feel comfortable enough to connect with after your stay, or when you move on to your next adventure or the next country. And connecting our network, in my eyes, is the most important element that we need to think about, because we may move from the UK to Croatia, and we may move from being an accountant in a Buddhist church to healing people.
Maybe we may.
We may. But we need to be thankful for the opportunity to keep in touch with people we were fortunate enough to meet in all sorts of the professional and personal lives we've had. And if you are able to keep in touch with people you don't need anything from, then down the road, when you need something, you'll feel a lot more comfortable asking them for help, and they will help you a lot more than if we only remember them when we need them. No one likes that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you. That's really helpful. So We're coming towards the end, but would you like to tell us a bit about your book in case people are interested in, well, in building something more on LinkedIn? I love the way you've talked about it, so I don't think I'm going to be the only one who loves it. So tell us a little bit about your book.
A pleasure. The book is called Build a LinkedIn Profile for Business Success. And if I try to offer a simple framework, there are 3 questions I would ask. The first, Fiona, is who is our ideal reader on LinkedIn? So if your business is healing people, it could be executives who are shy, who struggle with leadership roles, or even competing for leadership roles, or even asking themselves, some of them may have imposter syndromes on top of shyness and other things. So why should I ask for that raise? Or why should I ask for that promotion? That's something that many executives or many potential executives think about. So ask yourself, who's your ideal reader on LinkedIn? That would be the simplest first question. And then the second question is, imagine we could make your ideal readers visit your LinkedIn profile. What action, Fiona, would you like them to perform? So perhaps you'd like them to go to fionacutts.com or to do something else. What would you like those ideal readers, what action would you like those ideal readers to perform after they visit your LinkedIn profile?
So I guess I would like them to go and download my free resource from my website.
Excellent. So now all you need to do is to make sure that when people visit your LinkedIn profile, they're made aware of your website and the giveaway or the freebies in a natural and timely manner. So they need to, if we look at your profile, then you tweaked and changed a number of things in your profile. And from the word go, we see the banner, and the banner doesn't focus on you. It focuses on empowering shy people to show up confidently in their lives. And I can also see the link to the website, so that if I'm shy, that makes me stop and say, okay, let me learn a bit more about this, because I would like to be empowered, and I would like to show up in a more confident way in my life. And now I'm ready to start reading and exploring and discovering you, basically. And here I see the headline that says International Facilitator Empowerment Coach, Health Entrepreneur. And now I scroll and I see the About section, and you wrote your About section in a great way because it's conversational and story-like. You start with a question. Is shyness stopping you in your business, in your life, and you're not sure how to change it? Now, who would read on? People who think they're shy and they want to overcome this obstacle. So all listeners have to do is not to try to copy your style, but to say, okay, so Fiona has that specialty. My specialty may be different. I may be a financial advisor, or I may be something else. So who's my ideal reader, and what action would I like them to perform? And how do I convey that information in a way that would make them want to discover more about me, and eventually convert or go to my website and download that giveaway or that freebie? Simply think of LinkedIn as a great way to have top of funnel inquiries. Okay, the transactions will usually not happen on LinkedIn, but all of us would be happy to get more qualified leads and more people who could be interested in downloading resources from our website, or reaching out to us and having some strategy calls and becoming paying clients down the road. So build a system that makes people who visit your profile discover your website, and there you'll be able to convert them in a good way. The book is 5 pages long. It's a bit more complex with screenshots, but basically that's it. If you get the gist of it, then that enables you to read your profile and to simply ask yourself, am I providing the information that those people need?
That's great. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on here. I really appreciate it. And I wish you well with everything.
Fiona, thank you very much. And I enjoyed our discussion here beyond shyness. And I would encourage anyone to take the next baby step, go to a website and download that giveaway now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm so grateful for you. It would be great if you could subscribe, great if you could leave a review wherever you're listening. And if you'd like some quick, simple tips to overcome shyness wherever you are, please go to my website, fionacutts.com, where you can download my free product, 5 Steps to Overcoming Shyness Wherever You Are. Thank you again, and see you next time.